and good evening, everyone. It's Thursday once again, and so much to bring up to date on. So let's get right started while people are arriving. This is Water's the New Gold, helping you thrive in the world's only vital, scarce, and recession-proof market. Aqua aurum novum est, which is my schoolboy Latin version of water is the new gold. I'm still waiting for somebody to challenge me on that because maybe it's perfect. Anyway, we are available in Spanish, always in real time. Just simply click on the globe symbol at the bottom, and you will be hearing Heather faithfully talking Spanish, probably better than I'm speaking in English. That's my guess. Anyway, continuing, we have the usual safe harbor statement. Basically, everything we say is believed, anticipated, etc., and we correct it as we go. But of course, we could be wrong. So remember that. All right, moving right along here, we have an update on crypto. As you recall, two-token system. The one token is the old one, I mean, old just because we came up with it first, $H2O, which is intended to be a dividend wrapper for water on demand. And we've basically de-emphasized that for now because it's not mission critical. We can deliver dividends, using the old-fashioned way. And so we're focusing on the more revolutionary item, which is Clear Aqua, which is a world community token. And it is what we think is going to be the water coin for the world. So let's take a look at where we stand. As you know, the white paper was delivered by our developers well before 1 October, which is great. And as I told you last week, legal owed us, well, first of all, I had to find a law firm, which I did, and an outstanding law firm that I've known for some years now, and good friend of mine, and he's very confident that he will get us the exact parameters to be a proper utility token. Now, why is that important? In the US, if you don't show that you are a quote unquote utility token, then you're considered a security and you can only be marketed to accredited investors, which means the 1%. Well, the whole point about crypto is it's universal. So whereas $H2O is going to be a security, and we have no problem with that because it's all about dividends to these accredited investors, we want Clear Aqua to be universal. And so it's very important that this be a utility token. What is a utility token? Essentially, it means that people are rewarded for working. They contribute to the system and the system rewards them, as opposed to investing and getting some kind of return, which would make it a security. That's a very, 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 very lame way to explain it. And please excuse any inaccuracies on that, but that's how I understand it. All right. We retain the Crypto Experience Marketing Agency, and the first planning session is scheduled. And finally, there's some additional research about managing decentralized autonomous organizations, which our developers are reviewing. Okay, so that's where that stands. And the amazing Ken Behringer, who's on with us tonight, joined us, went ahead and took care of the money show on 5 October. And I must say, Ken, you did a fine job. And we're actually going to go ahead and judge you. The judges panel. This is what the dashboard looks like right now, and it's got all these things. And what's cool about this show is that we had 158 people in real time watching Ken's presentation. Now, I've done presentations at Money Show. For example, LD Micro at the Lux Hotel in LA, and there were 30 people in the room. There weren't 158. So that's the beautiful part about these virtual events, right? Okay, so with that, welcome to the show, Ken. Give me a little sense of what it was like to be on the show.
Well, okay, so you and I worked on that four-part synergy stack, and it's funny because we were working on this in background for months and months and months and months. But literally the first time I looked at that presentation was 2 minutes before the show. And, no pressure. I mean, it's fine. So I said, oh, geez, this is going to be hard. But you know what? It's because what we did, we worked on it so much, and it really fell into place and it made a lot of sense. I will tell you that the show itself seems to attract a lot of really smart, sophisticated people. We've gotten some feedback on some early emails that we're sending. I think it was a big hit. I think that this is now the preferred, having gone to one of the live shows, I think the virtual show is actually a much more rich environment to meet the right people because it's kind of, you're not obligated to, get out of your slippers if you don't need to, right? You can kind of just log in and see some really smart people talk about what's going on with money and finance. So I think that's why it was, we had such a good showing.
Well, people don't get out of their slippers in Vegas either, but that's another story.
I was in Vegas. I can attest to that. Yes.
Well, without further ado, let's play what you presented, and then we'll have a little wrap up at the end. So let's see how you did.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining the session. My name is Joe Fitzgerald with Money Show. I'll be your host this afternoon. 2 bits of housekeeping. We're going to get right into the presentation. First and foremost, we want to thank everybody who attends these events. They've been extremely successful over the last 2 years. Keep your comments, feedback, suggestions coming to us here at Money Show. We read every one of them, and it gets us better and better. But again, thank you for attending these events. Secondly, Ken, after his presentation, we're going to get to as many questions as we can at the end. So there is a chat box that's on your desktop. Shoot those questions over to us during the session. And then, like I said, time permitting, Ken will get to as many as we can. With that said, it's my great pleasure to introduce to everybody Ken Behringer, who is the Vice President of Business Development for Origin Clear. As Vice President of the water technology company of Origin Clear, Ken is a 30-year veteran in public and private equity and co-creator, co-strategist of Origin Clear's visionary and highly disruptive water on demand strategy that helps rapidly decentralize the world's water treatment. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody to Ken. Ken, the floor is yours, sir.
Hi, and good afternoon, and thanks for joining. Again, my name is Ken Behringer, and thanks for your time on I'm sure it's a busy schedule. So, Origin Clear, we positioned ourselves and we call ourselves Water Company 2.0. Like every other industry, water is massively decentralizing. Entertainment, cellular, Amazon, Netflix, all have altered forever their industries by decentralizing. So who will serve this new decentralization? We feel we're very well positioned to do just that. No one really needs to be told that our world's water is very, very bad. We're in the middle of a global water crisis. 80% of the planet dumps agricultural and industrial waste directly into waterways, no treatment whatsoever. Now, primarily because no water treatment infrastructure exists there and probably never will. And I'll explain to you why that is in just a few moments and how we can overcome it. 3 billion people live under severe water distress. This is largely because 84% of the world's fresh water is consumed by and polluted by agriculture and industry. So the idea is if you just fix it there, it improves everywhere. So big part of the reason massive infrastructure for water conveyance and treatment won't happen in these places is the collapse of taxpayer funding. It's primarily fallen on the private sector who need a more nimble, less capital intensive strategy. Just here in the US, we've gone from 63% of water infrastructure being paid by tax dollars down to 9%. So yesterday's funding is gone. But we know that using the traditional model for water treatment and conveyance is not going to work. Fixing the world's water with decades of digging holes and millions of miles of pipes, trillions of dollars of waste is just as impossible as millions of miles of wires and trillions of dollars of telecom infrastructure was in places like Africa and Asia 20 years ago. Yet, as we sit here, 1 billion people are connected on those continents today through decentralization. And so it shall be with us. So what's the solution? Well, it's a couple of different parts, but in an article dated October 4th, 2021, our own CEO published an article in Newsweek to talk about the solution from an innovator's standpoint. Essentially, and as you can see here, the water treatment system is broken. If we tackle the water shortage crisis, we have to go to the responsible parties who are producing wastewater. So if we put the responsibility of wastewater treatment on the producers of wastewater, not government, who will siphon it away, you solve the problem by doing to water what cell phones did to telecom. Now, the interesting part is Decentralized water treatment infrastructure is key. If you can boost water recycling, we can buffer ourselves against the impact of water shortage. And it's by the right investments now that we can make sure that our children and their children have safe water to drink. The future of water treatment needs to be decentralized. That's going to be a common theme in my discussion. And this was just in our Newsweek article. And you can go to newsweek.com to read that article in its entirety. So decentralizing water is the key, and it also represents a potentially colossal wealth creation opportunity. So businesses can do their own water treatment. They have. As you can see here, rising water rates really create a once in a lifetime opportunity, but you have to be able to cut the cord. So what we want to do is create local corporate self-help at the point of discharge to create a second water revolution. So not only is total decentralization of water a colossal wealth creation potential, but with water rates exploding, as you can see here, far faster than ordinary inflation, this new decentralized asset class could become a phenomenal defense against inflation. I mean, look at the difference between water rates and ordinary deflation. So if you're worried about inflation, and most people are, we think that this will emerge as a real favorable asset class. So there are areas that we can most impact change are the places that are the most ubiquitous out there. Small businesses, remote locations. Commonly, they have one major obstacle that would need to overcome, and that is that they universally lack capital. What if we could fix that? Well, the technology to treat the water everywhere, even places without infrastructure, already exists. We have them, as so do others. These systems would need to be linked, and in an Amazon-like type of marketplace. And then if you can solve the capital conundrum, you can fix it all. So let's look at that. Connecting every consumer in the world to every retailer in the world has already been proven. Amazon took 20 years to do it, but now it's the largest retailer on the planet, bar none. And early players experience life-altering wealth creation. What if we could speed that up? So we've got the 21st century version of the modern world. The technology already exists to do this at point of use. We can connect it all with a proven method like Amazon did. Now, if we can take that and speed up the process, we've got a real tiger by the tail. So using fintech, which didn't exist 15 years ago when these big innovations happened, we could recreate world-changing disruptions in more recent memory, cellular, telecom, video streaming, even retail with Amazon. Now, this time we could do it in water. Now, the difference is with water, the effort could also avoid millions of illnesses and deaths in the future. We have the answer. And I'm going to lay it out for you, but first, just a little bit about us, okay? Name of the company is Origin Clear. Public symbols on the OTC Pinks or OCLN. Company was founded in 2008. And what we've done is we've spent this time achieving classic water engineering with decentralized technology, okay? We've got unique capabilities designed for businesses doing their own water treatment at the point of discharge. These capabilities are delivered in kind of 4 stages of synergy, and I'll lay them out for you. First, 25-year, it's our core fabrication capacity. 25-year business, build to order in Texas. They can build anything from $50,000 to $5 million. Now, business has really been taking off. Our booked sales for year over year from 2020 to 2021 have more than tripled, nearly tripled. And that's just the start, okay? Now, this growth is really far and away well above what the water industry normally experiences. They generally see pretty modest growth of about 10% a year. This growth is many times that average, obviously, and decentralizing everything may allow us to continue a sustained growth with a whole decentralized product line, okay? So that brings in the modular water systems. It's our revolutionary modular drop-in-place water systems in a box. They're able to solve big water problems with small on-site water systems. So what this does is it's a micro utility placed at a point of discharge. This dramatically opens up where we can treat water effectively that previously had no options. No, for example, 80% of the world where no water infrastructure even exists or likely ever will. These already sell really well. And because there's a lot of advantages. They're lighter, they're cheaper, they're more durable, and they're portable. So I believe this is a big part of the reason we saw such phenomenal growth last year, year over year. So in this stage 2, we make water treatment available to anywhere it's needed. Now, next is the stage that gives us the ability to open it up to anyone, regardless of capital or credit. And that's modular water, okay? The first phase of water on demand is designed to deliver a fully decentralized micro utility to all businesses. We've already sold these systems to these businesses like housing developments, animal farms, mobile home parks, RV campgrounds, assembly plants, the list goes on and on. We've currently had the ability to build and drop and deliver and commission these systems at points of discharge. Okay, so that's been working well. We've done it the old-fashioned way through a relatively slow sales cycle. This is where we're changing that. We're changing it through water on demand. So really what it is it's a pay-as-you-go program, just like solar power purchase agreement. There's no big capital expenditures. There's nothing upfront. You can transform yourself as a business from selling a high-end item to simply blessing customers with the system. Now, it's a lot easier to sell $1 million piece of industrial equipment if the end user doesn't have to pay for it, right? That's a lot easier ask. And these systems really remain owned by us. So the assets are designed to assist us in eventually uplisting the company to the NASDAQ. So finally, water on demand completely solves the capital conundrum. And it essentially creates a new asset class of micro utilities, whereby nobody is priced out of the market. So instead of just increasing our own client base, we can globalize this and create the world's second water revolution. So we get to bless these businesses with a solution without paying for it with no upfront cost. Here's a little bit on how that works. So first, the end user would sign a water purchase agreement like a power purchase agreement with the effluent quality, the water quality already contracted into the agreement. Other than that, it works very similar to your current arrangement for internet, telecom, electric service, water. There's two differences. Those facilities deliver the service from someplace else through infrastructure, whether that's wires or pipes, and it's delivered to your building. You're buying the milk, but they own the cow. This service will be delivered from on-site without the need from outside infrastructure because it's all solved at point of discharge. We'll continue to own the cow, but the end user only pays for the milk that they actually use. Remote monitoring, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, guarantees every drop of water passing through the system meets the contracted quality standard or they don't pay. Now that's the second main difference. All those services I mentioned previously, water, internet, phone, cell, electric, they charge you regardless of water quality, of quality of service, whereby we wouldn't hang up. The end user gets to own this, gets to possess this thing without any upfront money. And he doesn't get stuck paying for water quality that's less than what it was advertised. We make sure it's right 24/7. So what we've created here is a simple, elegant subscription model. It's a fully outsourced water treatment. It's a micro utility placed where it's most needed with no upfront cost. We handle everything. So we go from salesman to focusing on decades of service, where, as we know, managed services, the margins are many, many times that of a one-time sale. So the benefit to the end user, the client, benefit to the world, it's fairly obvious. It makes treating water everywhere possible. The benefit to us, to shareholders, to the water industry more broadly, is the model is much, much more profitable. So here's how solving the capital problem without government money, government spending, or taxation really helps solve the issue. We have a financing in place. Manhattan Street Capital is helping us launch, and that's been launched already, a $300 million fund. It's a SPAC-like vehicle. So as you can see here, we got $300 million. This would essentially, think of oil and gas LPs. These would be $20 million companies that own $20 million worth of equipment that are going to be placed on site to deliver water treatment wherever they're needed on a contract basis. We'll retain $299 million of assets. So it's easy to get $1 billion valuation when a third of that is in assets producing almost $6 billion over 25 years in revenue, which is terrific, right? So the idea is this begins a cycle that we believe of Wall Street funded micro utilities that create a new asset class. So what we want to do is, there's no world water marketplace. And why is that? Because all water is local. But an international network could enable this marketplace. So what previous disruptive innovations took, Amazon, Netflix, cell phones, they took decades. We plan to add something that we think could accelerate this to occur in a fraction of the time potentially. And that's our dual token strategy. But we're focusing right now on the shortest term launch, which is Clear Aqua. So Clear Aqua empowers communities to solve water problems at local points. So here you have a Clear Aqua community. There may be 1 million token holders that have been incentivized in one way or another to point out or highlight water problems that exist. There may be 1 million suggestions out there that get filtered down through delegates. So delegates are like your Congress, like a representative democracy. They'll filter it down to a manageable number. Those will go in the form of proposals, as you can see here. And clearaqua.org will be a neutral party, a neutral arbiter, an ombudsman. They will use water expertise. These will primarily be civil engineers, water engineers. They'll be able to look at what is most feasible based on the on what's available out there to be able to deliver these at the point of discharge, okay? Let me go back to that screen, excuse me. So now Clear Aqua decides which projects are going to be placed down using the capital already raised through our SPAC-like fund, okay? These are immediately built by our own internal manufacturing force, but almost immediately after that, we're going to need to bring in several other parties because the job will be big and we'll want everyone to join in the process, and they make more money doing this. So water problems are finally placed down at the point of discharge where they're really solving problems, generating tremendous dividends. If I go back to this previous, the dividends paid out to the capital investment holders is almost $500 million over a 25-year period. So I think that's going to be very, very attractive to people leery about certain assets that are out there right now, okay? So this ends up going back to capital, okay? So that's how we stack this in a nutshell. So just to tick them off again and remind, stage one, we can build anything anywhere, capability from $50,000 to $5 million. Stage two, modular water, patented water systems. They can go anywhere they're needed, okay? Stage three, take the thing that's superior, that can go anywhere, and make it a no upfront capital cost to the end user and make it more profitable on the back end, create a micro utility asset class. And stage four, digital currency to enable water communities to potentially create a worldwide water market, but also accelerate a worldwide change in how water is dealt with. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to tie it all together for you. I'm going to lay out 3 stages and events and how these events create far greater valuation, we believe, for us as a company and for investors. Time frame on these things are going to run somewhere between 3 months and 36 months. First things first, the initial investment, you're buying into a preferred stock. A company trades publicly, but it's a small penny stock right now. So you're going to be able to convert your investment at 150% of principal at the time you make the decision. The stock is 10 cents when you invest in the preferred and you convert it 5 cents. You'll get twice as many shares, but you'll still get 50% above your principal, and vice versa on the upside. So it's called price protection. And we tried to put our early investors in a position where even if the stock is slow to perform, you do extremely well. But here's why we think we do extremely well, okay? As we see growth in the common market, you'll have the opportunity to take money off the table or keep it, up to you. And then you have 4 distinct liquidity events, up to 4 warrants present in this preferred stock offering. So this is about a 36-month view in all. I'm going to give you about the next year and a half. Within the next 90 or 120 days, the initial Water on Demand fund will be launched. We'll have the Clear Aqua network, we think maybe by as early as January 1st. I think we can create an international digital currency community. And these first water as a service contracts will be launched. I think this, combined with really, really strong outreach to the world on what we're doing and how we're solving the problem could generate a lot of interest in our little market. That goes out to the end of this year, early next. By mid next year, the water on demand programs begin to generate real assets. Again, this is a $300 million asset we hope to finally possess in a couple of years, but maybe by next year, maybe it's some small portion of that, okay? I think that we'll see increased activity with Clear Aqua. I think we'll have additional water companies also paying profit, manufacturing these and servicing these with us. And we are also going to turn to our philanthropic investor network, which helps generate interest internationally in 14 different countries. Okay, so by mid next year, I think a lot of things are in motion. So finally, 2023. What we're looking at is we hit that $300 million in capital. Maybe we're working with dozens of companies worldwide. We launched that portal, the same portal that helped fund Impossible Foods. If you've heard of that company, you know that they're going to be going public soon. We're working with the same firm. And I believe that well before the $300 million mark, our assets are sufficient to trade to NASDAQ, and that's our goal. So a new micro utility asset class is born. It's a great alternative to oil and gas and commercial real estate. Where our stock is at that point, I really can't speculate, but this is all we feel within reach with our vision and with your vision. You can be like previous early adopters whose lives were changed by changing the world, except this time, the act of doing that can also prevent millions of illnesses and deaths and have life-altering wealth creation potential as well. So as you saw, the $300 million pro forma generating $6 billion in revenue over 25 years, I think should be sufficient to trade us to NASDAQ. So that's it in a nutshell. And these are my words. I'm going to play for you a brief 2-minute video or 3-minute video that tells the story from both the side of my CEO and our brilliant chief engineer, Dan Early, who was the creator of a lot of these portable micro utilities that I've described. And you can get to see it from their side and how some of these are right on site already working.
We are on site at the mobile home park, and we are installing the Ponster 30K biofilm bioreactor system as part of an upgrade to the lagoon treatment system that's been in service here for over 50 years. This is a classic example of what decentralized wastewater utilities looked like 50 years ago. Not much has changed. If you don't have access to public sewer, you have to provide your own on-site wastewater treatment prior to disposing of your wastewater.
Back in 2020, while we were working on rolling out the Modular Water Systems product line, our good friends told us that they had a problem with their mobile home park in Alabama. And what's weird, and we found out, is that all through the South, trailer parks have very crude sanitation. Basically, all the poop goes into a pond, and that's it. It just sits in a pond. And if you've ever driven by one of these trailer parks in the South and you see there's like a green pond over there, that's what it is.
The lagoon system is a passive treatment system that's been in operation for about 50 years. Recently, the state of Alabama has imposed certain permit improvements and permit requirements.
Departments of Environmental Protection in Alabama and elsewhere are trying to upgrade everything, and they're requiring landlords to do something about it.
In 1970, this park was built and the lagoon system was part of it. For the last 4 years, it has been real difficult for me to maintain the proper discharge, and it's tested once a month. They test for E. coli, they test for any oxygen levels, they test for any bacteria buildup. The last few years, we have not been able to meet the demands of ADEM, Alabama Department of Environmental Management.
So they were going to have to build something themselves. This is what I mean by forced decentralization. More and more businesses are being forced to do their own treatment because the central infrastructure is totally overwhelmed in this country and elsewhere. And so they needed a solution. And it so happened that our brilliant Dan Early, the chief engineer, has a great technology.
A porous, low temperature fired, highly porous ceramic. It can hold 80% of its volume in water.
Think about putting a coral reef in all these like surfaces, right? And the dirty water comes through and the bacteria just eats it away.
So if you had a 12-inch by 12-inch by 12-inch cube of this material, which is very lightweight, it would have an effective surface area of 900,000 square feet per cubic foot.
This product's called a pond monster. Over time, you just park it by the side of the pond and run a tube through, and over a period of weeks or months, the pond just becomes clear.
The Ponster system, the treatment methodologies and the treatment capabilities that we are promoting, these are going to be next generation technologies that are going to allow us to deliver much more cost-effective treatment solutions and equipment packages to those decentralized customers that need it.
You don't need to wait around with wastewater just sitting there hoping nature will treat it. Instead, you put a machine there. You put a machine there and you suck the bad water out and you treat it. You reduce the load of bacteria and contamination in the water, and then you can release good water back to be recycled.
The decentralized world is the future when it comes to wastewater. The large centralized municipal public utilities, they are committed to the path that they started down 100 years ago. But when you get into regions where they don't have public sewer, but there is a need for a wastewater utility, well, then decentralization offers us this opportunity to deliver these technologies so that you can accomplish the three things that are most important to decentralized wastewater. First off is affordability. Second thing is sustainability. And the third thing is durability.
I can't wait to showcase this for the rest of the mobile home park industry. And then looking at really heavy pollution, you're looking at animal farms. And so it's becoming a really interesting product of modular water systems.
When you commit to a decentralized wastewater utility system, you don't want to be thinking 5 or 10 years. You need to be thinking 50 years, 75 years, 100 years. And that is the vision and the mission that we have with the Modular Water Systems program and products like the Ponster 30K system.
Okay, thank you for thank you. I love watching that. I think they crystallize it beautifully, but you can see that this modular water line is not aspirational. It's operational. It's in place. It's solving problems. What we wanted to do was think above it and provide a layer where that end user could literally take possession of it just by asking. And that's what our water on demand strategy exactly does employ. So I just started again. Sorry about that. Okay. So the bottom line is we're looking for maybe a few dozen to maybe 100 people with a pioneer type of mind. If you're an accredited investor, if you're a foreign investor, non-US investor, I'd like you to reach out to me. You can book directly at oc.gold/Ken. My team will immediately place you on my calendar. We can set aside, a few minutes to chat, maybe up to half an hour, and we can get your questions answered. I'm really anxious to hear your questions. We're probably the most transparent public company in the world. We have literally a weekly Thursday night meeting at 8 o'clock every Eastern every Thursday, where we literally meet with all of our investors and we lay out, here guys, here's what's happened this week. And we'd love for you to join us on that CEO briefing. We have one in 2 nights. It's oc.gold/CEO. And lastly, I want to just get to our I want to thank you, and here's our safe harbor statement. I know that my presentation went a bit long. We have just a couple of minutes if there's any Q&A. Now, any of you who have questions who I don't get to answer, please reach out to me. Get on my calendar. Let's set aside 20 or 30 minutes, and I can lay this out to you in much more granularity, and we can get right to your Q&A session. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, Ken, thank you very much. I did put those, the oc.gold/Ken and the oc.gold/CEO. Folks, keep in mind, you can go to the virtual booth of Ken's on moneyshow.com. This replay will be available and all the downloads and the contact info there. We'll get to a couple of questions. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes. Somebody's asking, how many water engineers do you have, and what or who is your competition?
Okay. Well, what we do is we have a primary design engineer. The idea is, if I understand your question correctly, these are pre-engineered. So you don't need an engineer for every, that's the custom build solution, right? These are pre-engineered as a prefabricated item that deals with multiple different types of water problems in various sizes. So we don't need an army of engineers. We have some we have a handful of really phenomenal engineers that have pre-engineered this thing to be almost like an Apple phone. You have 4 different Apple phones. You can just pluck one off a shelf. Okay. There was another question you had for me, Joe?
Yeah, talk about a little about your growth. Somebody's mentioning last year, Piers last year you did 4 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Can you talk going out? I mean, obviously we're not making recommendations, folks, but somebody's asking you if you can speak to your growth and what you think we're looking at for the next 12, 24, 36 months.
So far for the year, we have $9.4 million in book sales for this year versus, just about $4 million last year. I don't know how much of that will translate to recognized revenue in the next couple of quarters, but we're obviously on the right trajectory. A big part of that growth, in my view, is developing this modular water product line, which will be much easier to place, especially with no need to buy it up front.
Mm-hmm. And competitors, who are your main competitors?
There are the big names, Evoqua, American Water Works. These are dealing in the trillion-dollar existing water infrastructure business. There are plenty of good companies that operate in the small to mid-sized business. What we're creating with Water on Demand is a way to partner with, or basically involve ourselves with all of these people who make great innovations and allow them to offer them on this marketplace that we're creating called Water on Demand. So what our system essentially does is it turns competitors into colleagues. Anybody who builds from between $50,000 systems up to a couple $1 million systems, we want to be able to have them offer their product line as long as it's portable and passes muster with our engineers on this Water on Demand platform.
Got it. A couple of people just popped in. And folks, again, get with Ken and his team directly. You can answer this question. I'm not going to answer it for you. Will this be done through a private placement, and what's the minimum? And then what is your minimum size investment? Now you're publicly trading, right? So go ahead.
Yes. So it is a private placement. It is a preferred stock offering that converts to common stock at 150% of your investment, regardless of what the market is at the time of your conversion. So when you invest is not important. It's when you convert. If you decide, if the stock is doing wild things and you love it, you want to convert and enjoy the upside, you can do that. If the stock is flat, you're converting both times. You're converting at 50% over and above your principal amount. Accredited investors, I don't really tell you, well, look, for you to play with this offering, you have to do X. I do have $100,000 units. I will say I have $1 million investors today that started with a fraction of that. But we delivered, we kept communicating with them and we were able to deliver on what we said we were going to do. And now they're some of our largest investors today. So if the idea makes sense, if you like the idea, let's sit down and talk.
Terrific. Ken, thank you. We are out of time. We want to thank you for your insights and really interesting technology. There are some other folks that ask questions, so get with Ken and his team one-on-one. You can find them through the virtual booth that they have on moneyshow.com. And of course, you can reach them at ken@originclear.com as well. And in the chat box, you could set up, one-on-one sessions with them. But I urge you people to do that. Ken, again, thanks to you and your team for joining us. And we want to thank all the attendees for this session and for all the sessions. These have been phenomenally successful over the last 2 years. So keep your comments, feedback, and suggestion coming to us. And last but not least, we'll be back at a live event February 24th to 26th. It's the Traders Expo, probably the biggest traders event of the year. There'll be a lot of traders, a lot of high net worth people there. So come see us live February 24th to 26th in Las Vegas. Again, Ken, thank you. We appreciate you. And folks, thank you and have a great afternoon and a great day. Go ahead. What were you going to say something, Ken?
Yes, John Costello, Ken, Bob Esty. These are complicated answers, so reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer them. I don't want to leave you hanging, but we're out of time. So I do want to give you my undivided attention. oc.gold/Ken.
Got it. Ken, thank you very much. Yeah, go to the booth, get with him, and he'll be happy to answer any questions. And again, folks, thank you all for participating. Have a great afternoon and a great rest of your week. Thanks again, everybody.
Well, there we go. So I think it worked pretty well, Ken, for your having seen this slideshow literally minutes before it was live.
Right. That end piece looked like Max Headroom with the jerky move. It reminded me from the 80s music videos. But no, it was they did a really super professional job of post-production on the video. They were terrific. I see the Money Show as a regular monthly outreach to the community. I think it'll be very, very, very effective.
Excellent. And if some people raise their hands, I just want to let you know that you can do the chat. So I've just typed that to everyone. So what I'm
Did I
excited.
send that just to the attendees? I'm sorry.
That's no worries. So
All right.
yeah, so well done. And when is the next virtual show?
They're running about once a month, so I would look at probably the end of the first week, early second week of November.
Good
I'll
to
get a date. I'll get a date certain, and we'll announce that probably in the next, week.
JRW says, good evening. Thanks all. Great job, Ken. Yes, no, definitely. That was well done. Please feel free to contact Ken, oc.gold/Ken, and he will be happy to discuss this, and or email or phone. And be sure to fill out your survey. We do carefully read the surveys that come in, and we look forward to seeing you next week. By the way, we're in the works on a good sort of Mission Impossible type intro to get people up to speed. Yeah, Devin says 158 people attended the Money Show real time, as I was saying earlier on. And that is compared to my experience where there's like 30 in a room. It's amazing. So that was brilliant. Thank you all. And well, let's see. Ivan has this week, Fill Into Investors, the Happy Homes podcast will be discussing Origin Clear. So we look forward to being able to report on that next week. Thank you everyone for having been on board. It's been great. You guys are the best audience we could hope for. Thank you for helping us sharpen our story over the months. And the 4 stages of synergy, as I call them, you will see them soon on our website. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. JRW, can we get an update on investment for not accredited? Good question. We are still working out whether we can, the SEC is not exactly tolerant of people doing crypto, but we expect to have an offering for accredited investors, which we'll be happy to let you know. That is being worked out as I speak. So JRW, just if you'll have a couple weeks more patience, I think you'll be very happy with the outcome. All right, I'm going to switch off video now, and everyone have a great weekend. See you next week, and keep up the tremendous support.